Hi, we are from At Home Tuition. In this video, we are going to see about grouping of the given data. In that, we are going to see when the grouping of data is needed, why we want to group the given data, and also how to group the given data. So, we are going to see all these three concepts in detail in this video. So, our question is explain grouping of data with an example. First, we will see definition. So, grouping of data is used when the given data set contains large number of data. So, this is the place where we are going to use the grouping of data. So, now when the given data set contains few data, then we can represent the given data using pictograph. Okay, so we have seen in our earlier videos what's pictograph. So example, if number of cars produced in 5 months is the given question, then we can represent the given data using pictograph for our easy understanding. That is, pictorial representation of the given data is called as pictograph. So this is used only if the data are very few. Next type of representation of the given data is bar graph. So now let's consider an example. Marks scored by a student in 5 subjects, say English, Maths, Science, Hindi and Art is given. We can represent this data, that is marks scored against the different subjects using bar graph. So similarly, suppose if we want to compare two sets of data, that is percentage of mark obtained by two students, then we can go for using of double bar graph. When grouping of data is required. So, if we have to deal with large set of data, for example, consider the following marks out of 50 obtained in mathematics by 60 students of class 8. So, there are 60 students in a class. So, each student will score different mark. So, you will get 60 different marks. So, you will have a large data. So, in this case, we are going for grouping of data. So, when the data set has more values, then we want to go for grouping of data. Why to group the data? So, now if you know that a large data is given, you can form the frequency table to find the class intervals, right? So, we have seen this in the earlier videos. So, if you form the frequency table for this 60 students, then the table would be too long. So, for our convenience, we are grouping the data to find the frequency distribution of number of observations falling in each category. How to group the given data? We make the groups of observations. So, now let's consider the given question, that is marks out of 50 obtained in mathematics by 60 students of class 8. So, marks is given for out of 50. So, the mark may vary from 0 to 50 for 60 students. You have to be clear in this concept. So, mark varies from 0 to 50. So, now what we are doing is we are classifying this 0 to 50 in various intervals such as 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50 and 50 to 60. And then we are now obtaining a frequency distribution of number of observations falling in each interval. So, in earlier video, we have taken one number and then we have formed a frequency table. That is, we have put tally mark again, one tally mark against each student. Now, instead of that, we are making it as a group and we are putting the tally mark against each group. Okay. So, each of the groups 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40 and 40 to 50 and 50 to 60 is called as class interval. So, each group we will call it as class interval or briefly as a class. Next is very important point we have to be observed in this class interval. So, now if you have formed the group 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50 and 50 to 60. Okay. So, now while marking the tally mark against each class interval, you have a doubt, right? So, if you have scored the 10 mark, whether we have to put a tally mark for in this 0 to 10 class interval or 10 to 20 class interval, because we cannot put two tally marks. Okay, that is one for 0 to 10 and 10 for 10 to 20. That is wrong. So, you have a doubt, right? So, if we take 10, it occurs in both the class intervals. It may be in 0 to 10 or 10 to 20. Similarly, the 20 occurs in both the classes, 10 to 20 and 20 to 30. Same for all the other class intervals also. So, but we cannot have one observation belonging to two classes. So, to avoid this, we are adopting a convention that the common observation will belong to the higher class. So, this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and 60 are called as common observations and it will belong to the higher class. So, what is higher class now? So, if you take the class interval 0 to 10, then this is called as lower class limit, and then 10 to 20 is called as upper class limit. So, if you take the 10 in 0 to 10 class interval, you will call it as lower class, and the 10 in 10 to 20 class interval, you will call it as higher class. So, now the value 10 belongs to the upper class interval, that is 10 to 20 and not in 0 to 10. Similarly, if you take the value 20, it belongs to 20 to 30 class interval and not to 10 to 20 class interval. So, this is the very important point. You have to note it down while making the frequency table with or size of the class intervals. So, now if you consider this 10 to 20, we will call it as class interval. So, in this single class interval 10 to 20, 10 is called lower class limit and 20 is called the upper class limit. Similarly, if you take the class interval 20 to 30, then 20 is called lower class limit and 30 is called upper class limit. Another point you have to keep in mind, so this class limit, okay, that is class interval 10 to 20, 20 to 30, all will have equal differences. So, the difference between upper class limit and the lower class limit for each class interval should be same, and in this case we have considered it as 10. So, this difference between upper class limit and the lower class limit is called the width or the size of the class intervals. So, you have to remember the width or size of the class intervals should be equal. Now, we will form a frequency distribution table under the following headings. So, groups or class interval, and then tally mark, and then frequency. So, now we have formed the groups, that we know that the mark is from 0 to 60. So, why we are taking 60 is we are doing out of 50, but one student scored 50. So, 50 you cannot go it in the 40 to 50 class interval. So, you have to put 50 only in the upper class interval, that is 50 to 60 class interval. So, for that reason, we are grouping the class interval from 0 to 60 in the class or width of size 10. Okay, so 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60. So, this is also the place where you have to concentrate. Still, even if you have given out of 50, you have to take till 60 because of this 50 mark. It should be only in the upper class interval. So, now I have done the tally marks based on the given data. So, 0 to 10. You have 2 students, so I have done 2 tally marks and the frequency is 2. Similarly, for 10 to 20, 10 students, then 20 to 30, 21 students, 30 to 40, 19 students, and 40 to 50, 7 students, and 50 to 60, only 1 student. So, now the data represented in this way is called grouped data, and the distribution found is called as grouped frequency distribution. Now, let's see some advantages of this grouped frequency distribution. So, if you form a table like this, we can collect the useful information like this. Most of the students have scored between 20 and 40. 8 students have scored more than 40 out of 50. Only 1 student has scored 100 marks. Then how we can also find how many students scored less than 20 marks. How many students scored more than 30 marks. So, these are all the few informations we can collect from the frequency table very easily. Also, we can answer the questions like what is the lower limit of the second class interval, what is the upper limit of the last class interval, what is the frequency of the third class, which interval has a frequency of 10, which interval has the lowest frequency, what is the class size. So, these are all the few questions which can be easily answered if you look into the frequency distribution table. So, these are the advantages. Hope you have understood all the concepts well. Thank you for watching the video.